July 2022. For the excellent completion of his first year in college with all A grades, I decided to make a gift to my son. So, we flew to Asheville, North Carolina to spend quality time in Biltmore Estate. Following just the 50-minute flight, landing in Asheville Regional Airport, North Carolina. That's my Richard in Asheville Regional. Our personal driver, Derek, whom we hired a week prior to our flight, is already waiting at the Delta exit. We only use Delta. Destination? Candlewood Suites in 49 Tunnel Road, downtown Asheville. And there is our hotel. We intentionally did not book one of the Biltmore Estate hotels because we wanted a diverse experience both in the estate and downtown. Suite 309, Mountain View, close to the elevator. My son is 19, although he looks older. Back in our townhome in Georgia, he has the entire second floor as his private area. There is the promised mountain view and the full kitchen. This is an IHG hotel, relatively new. I like these plush beds. It's time to unpack. And so, in a few minutes, the fridge is stuffed with deli and semi-prepared food. I even have carried with me my favorite Neapolitan spices. After a cozy supper, we get prepared for the next big day. Here's the deal. I am a cat lover and still miss the endearing silver Persians I had prior to moving to the United States. Here we have this adorable Norwegian female in Georgia, whom we cannot leave with a sitter for more than 3 days. So we always take very short trips, 3 or 4 days maximum, just like we did when we recently traveled to Montana, Utah, or Louisiana. This time again, we took a 3-day absence from home and have only 1 day to explore downtown Asheville and of course the Biltmore Estate from A to Z. I have printed our admission tickets in advance with the map of the estate. Next morning, our driver Derek takes us to the Biltmore Estate, which is just an 8-minute drive from the hotel. The estate entrance starts at 1 Lodge Street in Asheville, Buncombe County. And there is the arch. So you know, there is a drive-through ticket scanning booth where the security guards scan the admission tickets long before you approach the parking lot at the mansion. Remember, you do not scan the Biltmore admission tickets at the mansion. After you checked in, From the entrance, there is still a 6-mile drive to reach the mansion. Finally, we are at the chateau. The Biltmore Estate is an 8,000-acre land holding the mansion itself, a rail station known as Southern Railway Passenger Depot, directly merging to Biltmore Village and historically supplying the trade of the Vanderbilt family. During George Vanderbilt's lifetime, it spread over 125,000 acres. Today, it still remains the largest privately owned estate in the entire United States. It is also adorned with fabulous decorative gardens, as you see, multiple gift shops, restaurants, bistros, deer park, a museum of mobile and digital exhibitions, currently hosting the arts of Monet, Pissarro, Renoir, Cézanne, Da Vinci, Van Gogh. We will get to that experience a bit later. The estate also has a winery with its own brand of wine and running wine and chocolate tasting tours and workshops, and 3 hotels within the estate and its village. And yes, this is the same Vanderbilt dynasty to which the CNN reporter Anderson Cooper belongs, although he inherited less than $1.5 million from his late mother's estate after Gloria died in 2019. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the shipping and railroad tycoon, was Cooper's great-great-great-grandfather. George Washington Vanderbilt, who commissioned the Biltmore House, was Gloria Vanderbilt's great-uncle. Gloria's grandfather, Cornelius Vanderbilt II, and George Vanderbilt were brothers and the grandsons of Cornelius Vanderbilt. Now, a few words of Biltmore history. During America's Gilded Age, the town of Asheville was the stopping ground for America's richest industrialists, including the Edisons, the Rockefellers, and of course the Vanderbilts. Some built country homes, but George Vanderbilt, then aged 25, built the largest privately owned home in the entire United States and also a tourist landmark located in the breeze of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Originally, George was from Staten Island, New York. He was the son of the philanthropist Cornelius the Commodore Vanderbilt. Construction of this mansion lasted for only 6 years, from 1889 to 1895, quite a speedy pace considering the attention to detail and chic ornamentation, let alone the fully functional elevator. $6 million were spent on this building, which is about $1.6 billion by today's standards. The architect Richard Morris Hunt was George Vanderbilt's close friend. The mansion's architecture is in the chateau genre. The mansion has 250 rooms, of which 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, and 65 fireplaces. Sadly, the Vanderbilt couple had only one child, Cornelia, born in 1900 in the Louis XV's room of the mansion. The 75 acres of landscape of fascinating decorative gardens adjacent to Biltmore House was designed by the American architect Frederick Law Olmsted. Today, the estate occupies 8,000 acres, but during George Vanderbilt's lifetime, it spread over 125,000 acres, including the property later sold to the federal government to create Pisgah National Forest, one of the first national forests east of the Mississippi. Besides the winery, the museum, parks, or restaurants, visitors can also enjoy backyard activities such as biking, carriage rides, hiking, horseback riding, and even archery or marksmanship in Antler Village, where the winery is. As you see, there is a lot to do, and because we are here for only one day, our schedule is dense and intense. Typically, the day starts with the house tour, followed by a visit to the deer park for the museum and horse riding, and only after to Biltmore Village or Antler Village for the archery, wine tasting, and wine and chocolate workshops. Commonly, the first stop is the chateau, and you decide the time for the start of the tour, which lasts about an hour. Here's a tip for first-time visitors. Regardless of what time you choose for the house tour, try to be in the estate earlier in the morning, no later than 10:30 a.m., to be able to reserve a spot for the wine tasting tour at the information kiosk. Once your spot is guaranteed, you can fill the time gap by having breakfast or brunch in one of the eateries near the mansion or strolling down the garden alleys until the house tour starts. Besides, this is the right time to purchase the shuttle tickets, which cost $15 per person per day. You either need a car or a shuttle. The estate shuttles have 4 main routes, running every 10 to 15 minutes. Here, I have scanned the schedule for you. If you intend to hike, still commuting from one spot to another is not a walking distance. For instance, it is 6 miles from the admission booth to the mansion, or 5 miles from the mansion to Antler Hill for the winery. And so, we take a line for the house tour, which is an audio-guided tour where you control your own pace and space. The mansion is built in the French Renaissance chateau architecture, neither Baroque nor Gothic nor Art Nouveau, and it has 250 rooms. So, while entering each room, you click the matching button on the device to start that portion of the self-guided audio tour. Now let's go! The roof is punctuated by 16 chimneys. 2 matching polygonal towers are connected by this loggia that opens the main rooms of the house to the view of Blue Ridge Mountains. The limestone columns are carved to reflect the sunlight. Inevitably, I will make some audio notes on some rooms. Room 3, the dining room. Frankly, this is a pleasant place, but that's not the chicest thing I have seen. My paternal home was small, but my dad did a better job in terms of comfort and ornamentation. Our all rooms were parquet with mosaic oak in 3 natural colors, and each room had its own design. You can see some parts from my cat pictures. The famous breakfast room, where 2 paintings of Monet are stored. George Vanderbilt had purchased more than 1,400 serious paintings in his lifetime. Not only did he have personal friendships with leading artists of his time, he even named some of the Biltmore rooms after Richard Erlon, George Morland, Anthony Van Dyck, James Watson, Vincent van Gogh, and of course Claude Monet. According to the archive letters, there was an invitation extended to Monet to visit Biltmore in 1904. While it remains unclear whether Monet indeed visited the Biltmore mansion, his 2 masterpieces are stored in Biltmore. These are Strada Romana a Bordighera from 1884 and Port Gulfar, a seascape from 1886. Monet skillfully used the matte and glossy effects in his paintings. If he wanted it to be lustrous, he would add more oil. In addition, George Vanderbilt also acquired 2 paintings by Pierre Renoir, Child with an Orange, 1881, and Young Algerian Girl, 1882. By the way, Biltmore House had several concealed doors, hidden passageways, and secret rooms which blend in seamlessly with the decor to remain unnoticeable to the untrained eye. In this very breakfast room, you see a camouflage door behind Renoir's painting Child with an Orange, leading to the butler's pantry, which servants would use for carrying meals. Many other secret passages can be found in the library or the billiard room. Number 5. Salon. Number 6. Music room. There you see my Richard Roland. During World War II, this music room has stored priceless works from the National Gallery of Art. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, as well as having German submarines aligned along the Atlantic coast from Maine to North Carolina, the United States saw that the global war had reached its shores. David Finlay, the director of the National Gallery of Art, contacted Biltmore to discuss the possibility of sending some of the nation's most important art treasures for safekeeping. Formerly, Finlay had been a guest in Biltmore House and knew that Biltmore was a perfect choice with its fireproof features and remote location. And so, on January 8, 1942, 62 paintings and 17 sculptures from Washington, D.C. were carried into the Biltmore House and placed in this music room. Among the saved paintings were Rembrandt van Ryn's self-portrait, 1659, and Gilbert Stuart's iconic portrait of George Washington, 1795. Room 7. Belgian Gobelins. The 16th century tapestries represent the triumph of virtue over vice. 8. The library lounge contains over 10,000 volumes in 8 languages. If you remember, formerly I mentioned about the secret passageway from the library. A balcony wraps around the second story of the library. On it are 2 doors to the hidden hall. The library hides a tiny room known as the Den, obscured by a carving of Saint Peter the Martyr. It leads to a quiet place to read, think and write, a tranquil deportment from the giant castle. As for the billiard room, which is in bachelor's wing, a wooden door beside the fireplace leads to the smoking room, where the men would retire for brandy and cigars. Next to the smoking room is the gun room, where female guests and staff were not allowed. The house's grand staircase has 107 steps spiraling for the 4 floors and around the giant iron chandelier holding 72 light bulbs. The house also has a vintage and fully and safely functional elevator, electrically operated. Indeed, after Thomas Edison introduced the use of electricity by producing light bulbs in 1879, starting 10 years later, in 1889, the Biltmore constructions installed all advantages of electricity, including the elevator that works since then and connects the first and second floors. During our visit to Biltmore House, I asked about these angled side doors that have narrow sideways behind them outside. I was assuming that the narrow sideways were for the pets, so the animals would not litter the stairs, and also it is hard for the pets to climb the stairs. Yet, the answer was that these angled doors are just for access to the outside of the building, to clean up the windows and remove the littering leaves and duff layers. The second floor living hall is an extension of the grand staircase and gallery displaying John Singer Sargent portraits of Biltmore's architect Richard Morris Hunt and the landscaper Frederick Law Olmsted. Here, on the second floor, are the happy couple's bedrooms. 10. George's bedroom. 11. Edith's bedroom. And of course the crown room of the castle, Louis XV's room, where the only heiress, Cornelia, was born. The third floor has a number of guest rooms, among them rooms named after several artists, as I described before. The fourth floor has 21 bedrooms that were inhabited by housemaids, laundresses, and other female servants. It is interesting to observe that with their wealth and opportunities, the Vanderbilt couple intentionally kept the servant rooms on a very basic level to make the servants know their place. On this floor is the observatory with a circular staircase that leads to an iron balcony with doorways to the rooftop for a larger view of the estate. The basement situates activity rooms, including an indoor 70,000-gallon heated swimming pool with underwater lighting, a gym, a bowling alley, as well as a service hub with rotisserie kitchen, storage, laundry rooms, servants' dining hall, and additional servant rooms. In the basement are also the Halloween rooms. The outdoor conservatory has a variety of species and a model railway. After taking a 2-hour break for shopping in the gift stores and lunch, we take a shuttle to the Deer Park for horse riding and fulfilling the central objective of our trip, the Claude Monet digital exhibit. In the first hall of the museum, you see the introduction to arts and philosophy of the painters whose fans were the Vanderbilts. Bear in mind that the exhibits are seasonal. We visited in early July for Monet. If you want to see Da Vinci or Pissarro, you have to follow the annual schedule to pick up the right month. I am taking you now to the grand exhibit, Monet and Friends. It doesn't need my commentary. Let's go! Sensibly, I only share some fragments from the 1-hour show. After, we take a shuttle to Biltmore Village, all on the same day. As I mentioned before, because of our cat, we only take short trips with a condensed schedule. Finally, we arrived in Biltmore Village or Antler Hill. The Antler Hill is more than outdoor and indoor fine dining experiences, winery, wine tasting tours, galleries, creameries, model gardens, playful alleys, or signature shopping. I highly recommend visiting this small but very informative museum in the Antler Village named Biltmore Legacy Museum on 197 Dairy Road, displaying collections of the Vanderbilts' personal correspondence, photos and documentaries on their connections, hobbies, favorite outfits, and even their admiration for Napoleon Bonaparte. You can find this tiny museum more informative than the Biltmore House itself. Admission is free, included in the estate's general admission ticket. For instance, on his 21st birthday in November 1883, George Vanderbilt received a remarkable gift, a chess set once owned by Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of France, who would play this set after his exile to the island of St. Helena at the West African coast. After Napoleon's death, his personal items were put on auction, and that is how this chess set went through the hands of Andrew Darling to McHenry, the owner of the Holland House, who gave this set to the young George. A small exhibit showcases the Vanderbilt and Titanic story. In 1912, George and Edith Vanderbilt had already booked tickets on the Titanic, had even ordered the outfits to put on aboard the giant liner. However, Edith's well-traveled sister warned them about the unexpected trials that might emerge during a maiden voyage. So they canceled their trip on April 9th, a week before the Titanic sank. Interestingly, one of George's nephews, Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt, would be perished in 1915, a year after George's death, while trying to save hundreds of passengers aboard the torpedoed and sinking cruiser Lusitania in 1915, when he made no attempt to save his own life by giving his lifebelt to a second cabin passenger, Alice Middleton. This calls for wine. We are taking a wine tasting tour in Biltmore Winery in Antler Village. The admissions are free if you have the general Biltmore admission tickets. My son is 19. He's not going to taste any wine. We are walking through the estate underground tunnel that was part of the Biltmore dairy barn. This stone tunnel leads to the winery. While the Biltmore House opened to the public in 1930, its winery became a public visitation site since 1985, thanks to Bill Cecil. The Biltmore white wines are handcrafted in every flavor profile, from crisp, mellow, lactic and dry to juicy and sweet. Some of the best-selling white wines are Gewürztraminer, Muscat Canelli, Chardonnay, and Riesling with some tropical twist. Now about the reds. During our visit, Mourvedre was the limited special. I only tasted Mourvedre. I wanted to buy a couple of bottles and the carry-on boxes were on sale. However, I realized that I cannot carry liquid on the plane unless I check it as a luggage, so I ordered the wines to be shipped to my residence by mail. You can order the Biltmore wines online from biltmore.com. Bear in mind that the winery does not ship wines to the following 10 states. After a small shopping, my son and I are having dinner. It is 6:40 p.m. and all eateries of the Antler Village are either overbooked or closed, so we dine in the restaurant of the Village Hotel on 207 Dairy Road. This is not the hotel we have lodged in. We are staying in Candlewood Suites, downtown Asheville, but the restaurant of the Biltmore Village Hotel seems to be a good choice. We have ordered 5 dishes for 2. My son is having flavored mule, cheese and pickles, vegan ramen bowl, arancini, beer battered Brussels sprout, which by the way is just marvelous. And I have ordered shrimp and grits. Like I said, the battered sprouts are the best. The bill arrives $114, and with the tip we round it to $140. It is really a good price for dining of 2 in North Carolina, especially on the Biltmore Estate. Last night in North Carolina, we asked the taxi driver to take us for the observational rounds downtown Asheville. We're back home. Queen Theresa needs some explanations from us. She has been getting well with the sitter. She needs a shower, by the way. We also missed our mini garden in progress. We have oleander, lemon, cilantro, catnip. See the green peas? Here is another one. Fantastic. And zucchini is flowering too. We bought some souvenirs from the winery gift shop as well as tradition store in Antler Village and the Biltmore carriage store at the Biltmore house. It's funny, but these Christmas tree ornaments were $12, this one, and about $9 the other one. Here is the receipt. This small box of truffles we bought from the carriage house was $24 here. And this small notepad that my son chose from tradition store was $16. This was pretty much about our trip. So long.